Hey, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is CJ. This is early in April of 2025, and lately there's lots of talk of tariffs and challenges coming to businesses. So a little bit about me. I'm a retired Dynamics 365 professional. I've worked for a couple of outstanding firms in this business. Recently retired, but uh, I have something to give back both to the community and to businesses. Uh, so the little guy really is going to get hurt. They don't have the little guy, meaning small to medium sized firms that are using Dynamics 365. Largely, they need the out of the box functions as far as through 365 works, and sometimes it just doesn't do the thing that they expect Navision to do. So I'm here to say, don't really worry about it. We can fix it. So on the table today, we're going to talk about tariffs. So I'm using the Kronos package. So nothing fancy, just regular straight on stuff. Um, if I were to say I want to estimate the impact of tariffs on my business, I would need a couple things. I need to look at the item card because, of course, it contains the elements of if it's a buy, an item, a make, a sell, that kind of thing. Then I also have to be concerned with a tariff, and then I have to see the bill of material. So if I get into the bills of material, what happens here is that if I look at a bill of material summary, um, this is an API of the bill of the header and lines, and I'm simply repeating what's here. A little bit different. What I also do is I can add unit cost, last cost, standard cost straight out of the system by just doing kind of a simple join. So what I've actually done is I'm running this into Power Pivot. So what I do here is if I go into Power Pivot and I manage, just to give you a bit of a background, and if I look at the diagram view for those that are knowledgeable about Dynamics 365 and so forth, you can see that I have a BOM header, a BOM lines, and I call it cost changes, but really it is the item card. And then I have another table I have set out here called tariff, and that's mine. So what happens is on the data view is fairly straightforward. I export the header, so this is the API of the header, and then these are the BOM lines that I've exported. Nothing fancy about this. However, once I get over into the bill of material lines, I've actually gone through and said, how do I look at things? So I want to know the unit cost. I want to know the unit cost as a function of how many of these pieces are being used within the bill of material. And then I have a forecast cost and a forecast total. So I also have this cost change. So cost change is actually, this is the item card. And if I slide along the item card, I do have a filter that I'm using the item category code called parts because I just wanted to keep this fairly simple. And essentially what I do is I have the item card, excepting I've limited it to a certain amount of fields that I'm interested in. The other ones I haven't included, but I can certainly do that. And I've said where it's a purchased item where the item category is equal to parts. I'm interested to know what that is. And then I have something called tariff. Now, tariff is not a standard table inside of Dynamics 365. I've just simply created it myself. And what I've done is I have something called parts, which is actually the inventory item type, which will match. And then I have a rate, 1.9% or 1.9 times, or coffee beans. So I could have a tariff. I could say country. I could add foreign exchange. I could do all kinds of things. But just to keep it really simple, I said wherever the item is parts, please use this new rate. So if I go to cost change, I use a little filter here that says if the item category equals parts, look up the value in the type to resolve the type, and then multiply it by unit cost. So essentially what it's doing is it's saying $5.03 times 1.9 equals 9,557. I mean, pretty basic stuff. But when I get to the BOM lines, of course, what happens here is I want to know the old unit, I want to know the bill of material cost, and I need the forecast unit with has the tariff and the quantity per all mathematically out. So that's essentially what's sitting in the background. For the user, what happens is I can sit here and put tariff in, and then if I put tariff, I can actually go back here and say, well, what is the tariff? I'm looking for BOM specific, so this is the SCM 1004. So if I'm on SCM 1004 and I go to related, I go to bills of material, I go to other, and I go to cost share, I can actually see the cost share of this item, and it comes out to, oh goodness, look at that, $201.22. So I could see each of the individual items here. So they're listed here by the item, the part number, and so forth. I mean, this is just a proof of concept that it actually works. But if I scroll over a little bit more, I can see what it looks like when I have the tariff. So I can actually come back to the tariff and change this to 1.2 if I want, and click enter. Then what I want to do is go back to cost change. Now I do have to do what's called a refresh. So the refresh is going to go back to the database. It's going to go to that API. It's going to look up that API for the cost change. So this is actually the item card, and it's going to recalculate all of those items and the cost. And then what I want to do is once that's done, I can come back up here into BOM specific, and I can see it's gone from $300 to $241.46. Now, to most nav users or Dynamics 365, they wouldn't have a clue how to do this. There is no feature in the system that lets you forecast what costs are. And for that matter, even if you could buy an application extension that does this, chances are it looks good on paper, but in actual matter of fact, it would fail. Fails because it doesn't take into account other things like brokerage, duty, freight, transport, etc., which I can't account for. Any of these items that I put into the tariff box, I could simply open a new line, put a new component in, and then have the business rule about how that functions. And on the cost change, that cost change would appear here as it applies to each of these individual lines. Now, I can't see it here. What I have to do is I have to go into Power Pivot to open it to see exactly how that mathematics works. Now, the difference also is that this is not a VLOOKUP. This is not HLOOKUP. This is not SUMIF. These are not the old Excel tools. These are actually DAX. These are controlled. This is not a spreadsheet that has an XY. This is actually a list, and every item in this column is subject to the same control. If it doesn't work, the column errors out and it will not function. So what it does is it brings stability and data stewardship because the user cannot foobar. Right? If I have a giant spreadsheet that has 20 tabs on it and somebody pooches one of the lines, I would have no idea, and I may make a bad mistake not knowing. So this controls exactly what happens. So this is a power user, right? This is not normally somebody who just plays with the system from time to time. This is actually a skilled user that really cares about saying, I have a business problem that I've not been able to solve. And I cannot find a solution within Dynamics 365 out of the box. And I cannot justify going to my gold partner and getting a quote on what it would cost to program this, let alone turn around and wait perhaps days or weeks in order to get a quote back, let alone get a developer to start working on it and then launch it. This took me about 20 minutes to do. Now, granted, you'll say 20 minutes, so what? Well, this is a proof of concept. All the basic elements are here to control this. To really take it to its next level, if I close this off and go back to here, I would encourage your ownership or the folks in your firm to actually go back and say, I want to do a little bit more. Once I have the impact of what the tariff could potentially be, I'd also be interested to see what my top sellers are. Now, this is presuming that this is a component that we're buying. If you were a distributor where you actually buy the goods but don't add any value to it, like I buy a case of a product and I turn around and sell that case of product, of course, obviously the tariffs are going to have a much more dramatic impact because of the leveraging between the relationship between the cost item plus the tariff as a function of selling price. If, however, your material is 20% of your selling price, because I have to add in factor in labor and overhead, and so which I've not done here, but I could easily do that. This is to illustrate what it would take as far as the materials are concerned. So again, if I had something that had 20% material and I had a 25% cost in it, while it is a large amount, it is not as devastating as it is if I had a purchased item that is 75% of my cost and my cost has gone up by double. That's going to put me out of business. So the sensitivity of this is you can always add another feature to this saying, look at my sales history. Let me find my top selling item or my customer base. Where are these being sold to and how are they being moved? Now, of course, if if I'm in a multi-warehouse environment, I may want to see warehouses or having specific types of things and overheads and so forth. Can always get into that. But this is just a brief rundown of what it takes to create some ODATA power tools. And power users can do this. And I find it makes them much more valuable to your firm. And also, if you're a consultant working for a gold partner, they're not going to teach you this. They don't want you to know this. I think every consultant should do it. I spent more years than I care to admit on the road. And sometimes when you're in the hotel room in some city and you have nothing to do, suddenly your mind wanders about, gee, I always wanted to create something, and how do I do that? So my channel is devoted to the small and medium-sized businesses that are looking for help and to say how can this benefit me with a minimal footprint and very little exposure to cost of ownership. Again, I am a sole practitioner. I retired from my ERP consulting life, and I don't know about you. I play a little bit of golf, and every now and then you see these ads on YouTube where I'll fix your slice in 15 minutes, and isn't this great? And then of course you need to buy the lesson, but you only buy the lesson after you've tried to do something, and then once you have the lesson, you try to figure out that it doesn't work anyway, because there is no magic pill. Right? There is no magic bullet that solves everything. This is something that takes patience and time to learn. But if you have an open mind and you're really interested in your craft, these are the tool sets that let you unlock Dynamics 365. The only thing that you need to bring is an open mind and an aptitude that, like anything else, if you're learning to play a musical instrument, it takes a while to learn the keys and that get into chords, and then the chords goes into a melody. Nothing different here. This is fairly straightforward stuff, and I'd like to show people exactly how this works. So you can subscribe to my channel. It's odata.ca. I have a presence on YouTube and, of course, the one on LinkedIn. But thank you so much for watching. We'll take care and see you on the next one. Bye.